Und herzlich willkommen hier beim Podcast Das Geheimnis des Tees. Schön, dass du wieder dabei bist und ich freue mich heute riesig, wieder einen ganz, ganz tollen Gast für dich zu haben. Und zwar habe ich hier Sohan auf der anderen Seite, oh, ich muss aber ein bisschen switchen, es spiegelt hier alles, von der West China Tea Company. Und ich folge ihm jetzt schon wirklich eine ziemlich lange Zeit und deswegen freue ich mich, dass wir es endlich geschafft haben, hier mal zum Tee zusammenzusitzen. Zwar aus der Distanz, aber hey, better than nothing. So welcome, Sohan. I'm very happy to have you here today for this interview. I already said that I'm following you for a long time. And as I showed you before, I still have some tea from you. And I wanted you so much for this interview because I also seen your way of tea and you're following your way of tea. And it feels like in some way we are the same crazy. We have some same craziness. You're traveling around, you're doing a lot of funny stuff over there, but you diving also deep into the way of tea, and that's always impressing me watching your YouTube videos, uh, following your journeys, and that's why it's good to have you here. So please tell the audience who you are and why tea and not coffee.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Guten Morgen. Well, I guess it's Guten Abend over there.
Guten Abend.
I don't know when this is going to air, but they're really getting close to the limits of my German here. But my name is Sohan Fan. I am from Texas, and I am the founder of West China Tea Company. Why tea and not coffee? Well, not specifically not coffee. I do drink coffee, but I don't drink it as much as I drink tea. And I think part of the reason, there's a couple of different reasons. One is that I like tea more. I do like coffee, but I like tea more than coffee, for one. And also, you know, my father's Chinese. I have Chinese heritage. So part of the appeal for me of tea is the relationship to Chinese culture and all of these cool little things. Coffee has cool stuff too, but it's mostly like glass and steel and chrome and, you know, the cups, you know, little cup, they got little ceramic cups, but the cups aren't necessarily handmade cups. They're little like, you know, manufactured cups. So I just like I also like the aesthetic of tea, more handmade things. I really appreciate that. And I do like a good espresso. I like good pour over coffee. I do enjoy this. And then I think the range of flavors you get from tea is much more than the range you get from coffee. Yeah. But I'm not saying I don't like coffee. I do like coffee, but just not nearly as much as tea.
For me, what is interesting in the podcast is always the way of tea from a person. So I figured out that I made a big change in my personality while working with tea. So who was I before and now? So this is my question for you, because you have, of course, you have the tea because you're the Chinese and you're growing up maybe with tea, but can you point it out that there's some change while diving deeper into tea with your personality? What is tea doing to you? What is given to you? And what is the gift of tea as well?
Absolutely. So I did grow up with tea, but not like this, not like little teapots, not gongfu cha, just drinking tea when we'd go eat dim sum and we would drink pu'er. And oolong and jasmine tea when we go to eat dim sum. And that's a traditional part of Cantonese culture. But I didn't know about the culture of tea. I just knew that I liked drinking it. So it was when I was in college, I was introduced to tea culture by a guy named David Wright, who owns a tea house called Hidden Peak, now in Santa Cruz, California, which is where I went to college. But at the time, he had a different tea house called Chai Kana, tea shop, really. And that's where I was introduced to Gong Fu Cha properly. And that's when I got into it. And so I would say, how did my personality change? I'd say that's a really good question. I think that's a totally legitimate question to ask, because I was 20 years old, and I was not in America. You have to be 21 years old to drink alcohol. And so I wasn't old enough to drink alcohol yet. And I discovered tea when I was still too young to drink alcohol. And I ended up drinking a lot of tea with my friends, with my girlfriend, with my roommates. You know, at my house, I bought a little tea set. I got a cheap little teapot in San Francisco, Chinatown, and I ended up, you know, getting into it. And then I would serve tea to my girlfriend and my roommates and everything. And then our friends would come over to study or whatever, you know, just to hang out. And we would drink tea together. And I would make tea, or my girlfriend would make tea, or my roommate would make tea. And it was a practice. It started becoming a thing that we would do with our friends, our guests. And then our friends would come over specifically to drink tea. And so they'd be like, okay, I want to come over to drink tea. And so we would, you know, have these tea gatherings there. And by the time I turned 21, there wasn't any room in my life for alcohol socially. I don't avoid alcohol, but I very seldom drink alcohol. I think I drink coffee more often than I drink alcohol, or you know, about the same. Coffee and alcohol is about the same. Very infrequently, maybe less than once every couple months, I'll drink this. And I think that definitely had a huge impact on my personality, because I've always been the kind of person who likes to get into things. You know what I mean? Like I find out about something and I want to learn a lot about it. And I want to, you know, experience, you know, the best kind of it. I want to experience the different kind. Just like when people get into coffee, you know, some people they go to the Starbucks every day and they get their coffee and they just drink their coffee every time. And they don't think about it. But then some people, they get into coffee and they want to know about all the different beans and where they come from and how to roast it and how to pull an espresso and how to do pour over, and they buy the things. I'm like that. And so tea gave me something to get into, to fixate on and to get into as a hobby, and to really make a part of my identity that was healthy. You know, there's at that particular time of my life, there are many different directions that I could have gone. I know I have this impulse to get into things. There's cannabis, obviously, you know, in California in the early 2000s, like cannabis was and remains a big part of the culture there. So that's another plant. It's something that people can learn about the different strains. And then there's alcohol, of course. There's the world of beer. You know, there's many different kinds of beer. There's many different kinds of whiskey.
German.
Yeah, exactly. You know about the different kinds of beer. And then same whiskey is, you know, in America, where people are really into whiskey. And so there's a lot of different directions that my desire to dive deeper into a culture could have gone. And I'm grateful that it ended up being tea, because I once calculated how much beer, because I do like beer, but I don't drink it very often, but I do like it. And I calculated how much beer I haven't drunk in the last 18 years, because I've been drinking tea instead. And it was like hundreds of thousands of gallons. It was a huge amount of beer. So yeah, I'd say that a big change in my personality, one is that it gave me something to make part of my identity and to focus on that was healthy and you know, actually good for me. And then I think another one is that it helped me be more comfortable talking to people in a social environment.
Definitely. Completely agree with you. And it's funny because my tea way started with an age of 16. And yeah, I would say the same. If I look back, so tea, and the journey is never ending, because you cannot be a tea master in every tea. It's not possible, because there are so many kinds of tea. You can have an overview. You can say, okay, this leaf's looking nice or not. But at the end of the day, there is so much more to be curious about, to dive in, to learn about it. Every farmer in China is doing the different style, had a different way of doing the tea, and that's it. And also the connection catches me. And just for you, what really catched me, of course, it's the little teapots. Come on, it's cute. And this is a big one. It's cute.
Yeah, me too. I've got my big teapot.
Yeah, and I have to say, so this is part of my life. I have to save all the poor teapots and collect it, but I'm also using them. So,
good.
For me, there was also a big deal, the connection between people. And it's also good that we are talking. See, the tea brings the people together. And because when I think back, I was always someone who's not say lonely, but I was always different. And when I came to tea, we're sitting together and everyone is different of us, but we can talk about a topic, and there's no right and no wrong, but because who am I to tell you how to drink your tea? If you like a tea bag, fine. It's fine. So this is that's why this is what I thought when I watching your videos and following you on social media so long, that we have a very close story as well, because because tea makes me more curious for life. Tea teaches me Chinese. Tea brings me up to China. Tea let me go to Syria 1 year before the war started. So to find out different cultures, to get into the tea culture and find the similarity of tea, and that makes the whole thing so interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about, if you like drinking tea from a tea bag, that's fine. There's no right and wrong way to do it. And I think that that's something that we've connected on before, and that I feel resonate with you in, is that when I know you said at the beginning, like, we go and we do all this funny stuff, but we're also deep diving into tea. Those two things don't compete with each other. There's no reason that you can't have fun and be funny and silly and take things not so seriously, but also be very devoted to what you're doing and very committed to learning about tea. And there's this idea that, oh, if you don't act like a monk, and if you don't sit there and, you know, you don't sit in silence to drink tea, and that you're not blessing the tea with your hands, and that you're not meditating with the cup when you drink it, then you must not care about tea. Well, nobody does that stuff in China. As you know, nobody, I don't ever see anybody meditating with their cup in China. I don't ever see, people don't drink tea in silence in China. They talk when they drink. And
this is a connection. At the first time, it's a connection, but you can also do the meditation with tea.
Exactly. And that's something that I do in private. I don't feel the need to broadcast that aspect of my tea practice, because I can't meditate with a camera on me. I'm not going to sit and meditate with a camera on me. That's not meditation, that's performance. And so I feel like there's being able to say, hey, it doesn't have to be like so serious to be legitimate. It doesn't have to be so stern in order to be serious, at the same time. And people in China, as you know, having been there.
Your camera is gone.
1 second. Yeah, sorry, someone tried to call me. I don't know how to do, I don't know how to, I guess maybe I can do, well, it's fine. Anyway, I'm back. But I think that there's a trend, especially in America and in like the Western part of America, to see like, oh, you have to like sit up very straight. And yes, you should have good posture, but like, you have to be very aloof, like a monk, and standoffish, and that you can't answer a question. If someone asks you a question, you have to answer them with a question, and like, as you know, having been to China, people are very warm and welcoming in China. When they see that someone is interested in Chinese culture or tea culture, they're very excited about that. They don't judge you of whether you like tea bags or whether you know anything about tea already. Even if you don't know anything about tea, you're still welcome to come and sit, drink tea with them. They're excited to have you there. And so I think that's a very important part of real Chinese tea culture. And it's an important part of what we want to share about tea culture also.
Also, tea is life. And this is what China shows you. So yesterday I had on Tuesday, I had a very interesting conversation to Don from Mayleaf, because he has also the Chinese medicine background, and there's a big difference, and maybe you notice this in America too, but I'm not in America, so maybe you have to give me the feedback. Because see, the people go to doctor when they are sick, but in the Asian country it's completely different. So the doctor did something wrong when you are sick, so you're drinking tea for staying vital, to for giving your body nutrition, and just for living. Nobody thinks about what is tea, what is the benefit from tea. This is everywhere. There's just one province. I was there. This is Jiangsu. I know Jiangsu, in Nanjing there is a Yuhua Cha, but when you go into the villages, then you just get hot water and no tea.
Wait, really? You've never been to Jiangsu? Really?
Yes.
Wait, they don't serve tea?
No, this is quite funny. So we were sitting on a big table for eating, and then we had this hot water in the middle, and I thought, oh, yeah, we're getting tea. And then someone grabbed the hot water and washed the dishes. I clean the dishes, because sometimes it's not that clean.
You want to make sure it's really clean.
Yes. So I had no hot water at the end of the day. I have in my pocket, I always have some tea leaves with me to catch the hot water before use it is for cleaning the dishes and put it in my cup. Yeah, that's the only province I could find no tea.
Jiangsu, I would have thought, because they have tea in Jiangsu. Don't they grow tea?
Suzhou, they have tea. There's very famous. Suzhou is also to Jiangsu, I think. And Nanjing, of course. Huh? So they have the Yuhua Cha. Every mountain there is a Yuhua Cha.
Interesting.
But in the small villages, they are not serving tea.
Interesting. Wow. I will remember that now. When I go to Jiangsu, I will know that to bring my.
They have tea plantations. They have it. I was there for. It's also a funny story. So I wanted to find tea, and someone told me that in the mountains there's a tea plantation. So I had no idea where the tea plantation is, and I just see. In Germany we say you have blue eyes when you're very if you have no idea about it, and you just think it's like going to China and everyone is doing kung fu. So I went to the mountain and just walked the ways, and of course the mountain was very big to find a tea plantation over there. But then I saw some tea plants, and I said, "Oh, there are tea plants." And then some tea pluckers came out. And okay, if the tea pluckers are there and they're bringing the tea they should bring the tea to somewhere, and I just following them. This is so funny, because no tea everywhere, but I found the only tea plantation in maybe 400 square kilometers.
Wow.
But it's a dabizi is not the explanation for that, but it's a way of tea, right? Maybe you have the same experience when you go somewhere. Even in Portugal, there was a small city, and I found the only Asia shop and the only teapot they have. Nice. But this is a way of tea, I think. Maybe you can say the same from your journeys. You you always know where to go, or you just sometimes just walk and find some amazing tea places.
It's here. We've got it written on our wall. It's there we go. 茶园.
茶园.
This is the word we use. 茶园is 缘分的缘. So the like destiny, serendipity, but for tea specifically. And so when something like that happens, like what you're describing here, let me see if I get my camera set back up good.
It's so beautiful tea place you have over there.
Thank you. Yeah, when some kind of strange coincidence happens, or like you said, you know, you're in a whole mountain and there's one tea farm there, and you find the one tea farm, then that's cha yuan. You have that. That's your yuan fun for tea. That's your tea destiny.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. All these stories. So you often go to China, right? Is there a specific place, or you just watch what you can find, or you always change it? It's not that easy to travel at the moment, right?
No, not to China. No, not right now. Not anywhere. It's not easy to travel anywhere right now. So hopefully that will change in the next year, you know, as things calm down. But I lived in China for 3 years, and so I have kind of a home base in China. And so my home base in China is Chengdu. Is my
I was there.
Where I lived for many years. Yeah, I love Chengdu. It's a great city. And then in Yunnan, of course, in Nanhua Mountain, where Li Shulin is from, that's kind of my other hometown. And those are places that I established a connection with when I was living there. So when I go to China, I almost always go at least to Nanhua Mountain. I think only one time have I ever been to China and not gone to Nanhua Mountain in Yunnan. So that's kind of my home base there. And I often go back, because when I go back, sorry, got a baby, I don't get much sleep.
Yeah, you're fine. It's very fine. I know what you're talking about. Definitely. But happily, mine are growing up. But you will find your time and just sleep back.
Yeah.
You get it back. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
One day. So I usually, when I go to China, I go back to places that I've been before. And I see old friends. you know, you have to maintain guanxi. You have to maintain the guanxi.
Definitely,
you know,
definitely.
If my friends knew that I came all the way to China and I didn't visit them, they would feel rejected. So I usually will go, and I'll see people that I've seen before, and then on their recommendation, I'll go other places, new places, find new teas. Maybe like 2014, you know, 2015, 2013, 2014, I was still going to tea markets and trying to meet people in tea markets who had tea. And as you probably know, that's not actually the best place to find tea. It's maybe the worst place to find tea.
Definitely. They have some stories to tell.
Yeah, me too. They're not usually good stories. So
yes.
I started going to tea markets, and I was like, you know what? I already know a bunch of tea farmers, and tea farmers know tea farmers. And so I will just, like, for example, when I went to Anhui in 2017 and met He Xiaoling, who makes our Taiping Hokui, which is my favorite green tea ever, of all time. I met her because she was recommended to me by Jackson Lee, who is the owner of the Sanbao studio in Jingdezhen. And I knew Jackson Lee because of Mary Cotterman, who was my friend who came with me to China in 2015 and stayed there and learned how to do Chinese pottery. And she studied with, she had a residency at Sanbao Studio. She knew Jackson Lee from that residency. She introduced me to him. He introduced me to He Xiaoling. That's why we have Taiping Hokui. If I just to Huangshan and said, I want Taiping Hokui, I'm sure I would get fake Taiping Hokui.
Yeah, this is how it works. By the way, this is, see the picture here over here? This is from Mengdingshan Mountain. It's so beautiful. Have the tea plantation over here and the dust in the back end. I'll always have it next to me. to remember that journey, because that journey is, as you said, if that was a free journey. So we go into Chengdu, meeting a friend over there. Then the friend gave us a connection in Mongding Mountain. In Mongding Mountain, he gave us a connection to Shan, and from Shan we got the connection to Langzhong. So we went to Langzhong and come back to Chengdu, and this is how it works. And I think this is definitely a part of China, but it's not always in China. So when you have the connections over here as well, this is how networking works. This is how everything works. If someone recommends you to someone else, then you get the best connections.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the difference is that in America, that's how it works in America too. If you want a job, then the person who knows the person who makes the decision is the one who gets the job, not the best candidate. It's the person who has the connection. Yeah. Same with, you know, getting if you're a musician or something, you know, getting a gig or something like that. The person who knows the person who makes the decision is the one who's going to have the opportunity. Yeah. And so in the West, in America anyways, it's not supposed to be that way. We say that's corruption. Say, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? We have this saying in America, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's supposed to be, well, unfortunately, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's really supposed to be a meritocracy, but unfortunately it's not. But in China, it's just, everybody knows that's how it works. Nobody pretends it works any other way. And they say, you know, if you have guanxi, anything is possible. Without guanxi,
definitely. But it also see, when I first came to China, I did not speak Chinese. I was there for a Taiji Bisai, for a Taiji competition. So I worked there, walked there, and I had no idea. Then we go to the Wudang Mountain, and there were some tea farmers, and I found out that I have no possibility to communicate. So the next year I came back, so I spoke some Chinese, definitely not all, but these little parts helps me a lot, because what they see is that I want to learn something, that I am really someone who likes to dive in, who's not just blah, blah. See? Often you find even when you're studying the martial arts, my teacher, as we have to stand for 3 months in Mabu, and most people are they're going, and then they did not learn anything anymore. So they prove the will. And this is also, when you know that, also with the tea, maybe you can say that too. I was in one tea mountain with a farmer, and the farmer gave me a lot of green tea, Lauren cha. He put it just in a glass and then brew it very hot. Don't think about the temperature. Don't think about anything. And the tea was okay, but at the end, he just came up with a small package of his personal collection. And then we came to the point where the tea was getting better and better.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, standing in horse stance for 3 months, you know, that's to show that you're serious. And China very much is, when you're in the inside of the circle, everything is available to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything is available to you. And to be in that part of the circle, it's not hard. You just have to be sincere. Yeah. And you have to show that you're sincere. You know, you have to show that you're really there for what you say you're there for. You're not just trying to make money, you know. When I moved to China, I went to China to do research. I was doing environmental research. That's my background is in biology. And so I went to China to work for an organization called CURA, the Chengdu Urban Rivers Association. And there was a professor who I contacted to get the information for the secretary of this organization that I wanted to work for. And she wouldn't give me her information. She rejected me twice. And I kept writing back, and she rejected me again. And I wrote back, and she rejected me again. And finally, the third time I wrote to her, she was like, okay, here's the email. Write to her in, you know, because I didn't know Chinese very well then either. I was doing Rosetta Stone, you know what I mean? That's how I learned. So my Chinese was very poor at that point, almost non-existent. But I managed through Google Translate and Google searches but I didn't just Google translate. I looked through each character to make sure it made sense using a dictionary,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It doesn't work. And I would read her emails and I would pull phrases from the email because I would translate her email character at a time and then pull phrases from hers and reuse them. And so finally she let me have this email, and in Chinese they say San Guo Mao Lu, 3 visits to the thatched hut, which is a story from the Three Kingdoms period. But that's, and what I always say to people in the tea trade, you can't go to China and try to do business like an American.
Yeah,
it
definitely
won't work. You will get treated like a tourist if you go try to do business like an American. And what do we do in America? We're very brass tacks. We have this saying in America: "Let's get down to brass tacks." I don't know what that means exactly, but it means that you just get to business. What do they say? Schluss mit lustig, right?
Schluss mit lustig, ja, sehr gut.
So cut to the chase,
Yeah.
Let's do business. Let's cut a deal.
Yeah.
And in China, especially if you're talking to a farmer, especially if you're talking to a potter, especially if you're talking to someone who, this is their life. This is not their job. This is their life. This is their whole life, is growing tea. Their whole life is making teapots, Their whole life is something to do with this. And a lot of times they learned it from their parents, and their parents learned it from their parents. This is more than just them. It's more than just them in their life. This is their whole lineage. And so you go to someone like that and you walk in their door and you treat their life like a product. Yeah. And you say, how much is this? How much is that? I want the best one. What's the best that you've got? This is too expensive. I want something like this, but I want this, but cheaper, can you give me a better deal? Or how much if I buy 100 kilograms, or do you have any tea from 1996? I only want tea from 1996. You will get the waijia, the outer price, you get the tourist price, and you won't see, like you said, that farmer coming to you with a little box on the last day of that good tea. You'll never see the good tea. That's not for you. That's for their friends. That's for people that they have a relationship with. And what you really do is you go in, you sit down, you don't talk business, you don't ask about money. You say, and then they say, what kind of tea do you want to try? And you say, what kind of tea do you feel like serving? What do you like the best? What's the thing that you have that you like the best? Yeah. You're not making demands of them. You're not saying, this is what I need. This is how you can help me.
Yeah. This is interesting because this is also the way of not judging.
Exactly.
It's not judging. You are there and you try not to judge. Anything is good for you. This is also how to work with a master. Yeah.
Exactly. And you're there to have the experience. You are the guest in their house, and it's up to them to decide what they serve you and what they do. Yeah. And what I always tell people is, if you really want to develop guanxi with a tea farmer or a tea merchant or a potter or an artisan, it takes 3 days to develop really good guanxi. The first day you come, you drink some tea, you smoke cigarettes, whatever, they give you a cigarette. I don't smoke in America, cigarettes, but in China, it's part of my job. I have to. If they give me a cigarette, I'm a man. Yeah. You as a woman, it's easier for a woman because a woman can get away with not drinking and not smoking. For me, and if I don't drink and smoke with them, I lose face, they lose face, our ancestors lose face. So I don't smoke cigarettes in America, but in China, it's part of my job to smoke these tea farmers. They don't all smoke, but when they do, I do it with them. Same with hebaijiu. So you drink tea with them. You eat sunflower seeds and you bullshit, and you just talk about stuff. You get to know them. It's not all business. You ask them questions, not business questions. You say, oh wow, this tea, I like this flavor. What elevation is this grown at? Not because I'm trying to determine how much it's worth, because I want to understand what you do. I want to understand your process. What's your life work about? And then maybe and then the next day you come back, get to see your face again. You come back and maybe the first day you buy something small, you buy one little thing, And the next day you come back and you drink tea with them again. And then maybe they invite you out to dinner. You know, they take you out to dinner, they buy you dinner because they love to do that. And maybe you drink some baijiu, you smoke some cigarettes, and then like the third day, or maybe you go to dinner at their home, you meet their family, you know, maybe you go sing KTV, you know, who knows? There's all kinds of things that they'll do. And it's just, you're developing a relationship. You're genuinely getting to know them as a human being. They're getting to know you as a human being. You're developing rapport, real rapport. You know their wife, you know their daughter, you know their kids. And
Playing with the kids is also always good.
Crucial, so crucial. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chinese people love children, and they really appreciate when you take the time to get to know their families. You know? Yeah. Because if you get to know them like that, you become an outer part of their family. You know, the family's big in China. Even people who aren't related to you are 阿姨, Susu, you know, 哥哥, Jie Jie, you know. And so, you know, when you take the time to get to know them and spend real time with them, then you become an outer part of their family. You're not their real family, but you're part of their outer family. Yeah. You know? And then the third day you come, you drink tea, and then at the end you say, I'd like to buy some tea. Then you talk about prices. Then you talk about what you want. And then you get the 内家, the inner price. That's when you get the real deals. And it can be much, much, much less expensive because at that point, this is not a business transaction anymore. You're my friend, I'm your friend, and we're working together. 我们合作, we're working together, we're collaborating, we're trying to help each other out. Yeah. I'm helping you to reach a new market, you know, your tea to reach people that they would never reach otherwise. And you're helping me with business. So that's what a lot of people who, Westerners who seek to get into the tea trade and to crack into the tea trade don't understand is that if you go and you try to do business like an American, you're going to be treated like a foreigner. You're going to be treated like a tourist. And you can be treated like family. You can be treated like a Chinese person, but you have to do business the way the Chinese do, which is by making friends first. Yeah.
And you said this is a very, very beautiful story because it also shows your way of communication and also shows your way of choosing your tea and also gives a value to your tea you are selling in your shop because everything is hand selected.
Yeah,
so everything has an investment inside. It's not the investment of money, it's an investment of time and also personal relationship. And of course there are farmers we don't like maybe, or people we cannot work with, but every tea you choose in your shop or in your shop is selected and took you a lot of time, and this the people have to understand. And always people ask me why oolong tea is that expensive. I can explain, give you several reasons why oolong tea is more expensive than a tea bag from an ordinary supermarket. But at the end of the day, this is also why I selected you as a podcast interview, because I want the people to understand what is behind good tea. It's not always you're not going to China and selected your tea. And of course you can buy a bunch of tea everywhere in the markets, as you said. And I know how the market's working. And I get cheated often. I just drink a tea, I like the tea, and they pack me a completely different tea.
Completely different, yeah.
So I know how that works. That's why I love to give the people a background. What is behind those teas? And of course, we in Germany, we have also good tea sellers. Slowly, they are getting more. They knowing the farmers, they knowing how it works. And worldwide, there are not much sellers. They're working like you or someone else. Because you have to invest time, because you have to go there, because you have to talk to the people. And of course, you have to check how the people are working, because this is also part of your work. If they're using pesticides, if they're using fertilizer you don't like, or if the farm, if there's something wrong, you know that.
Absolutely.
So this is what I like to emphasize to people, because there are a lot of sellers, they have really good tea, but they cannot survive or live from their tea selling. Yeah. And the people always argument with me and tell me, this tea is so expensive, I cannot buy it. And I said, but at the end of the day, you take a good oolong tea, for example. Let's take a good oolong tea. How many infusion is a good oolong tea? What do you say?
15. Yeah, 15, 20. You know, a really good one. You know, 10 to 20 infusions. You know.
So if you have a good tea, you need less amount of tea. First of all, you don't need that much leaves because you have whole leaves, and then you don't need that much. So the amount of tea is less, and you have 15 infusion. So then you can just count the numbers. At the end of the day, maybe you have a 30-cent cup.
Right, exactly. And you share it with so many people. And you know, this is another way to think about it, is it's not just about the price per cup, it's about the value of time that you get. I was doing this the other day actually with someone. I was breaking this down price-wise because I don't naturally think this way, but being a business person, you learn to think with numbers. You know, it's part of the deal. But what you're really, people don't go to a bar to buy alcohol. People go to a bar for the enjoyment of the time they spend at the bar. If you just want to drink alcohol, you go to the grocery store and you buy the alcohol and you go home.
You can drink it alone.
Right. You can drink it alone for way cheaper. Of course.
Definitely.
People go to a bar for the time that they spend entertainment. It's entertainment. The social entertainment. If we think about the time of entertainment, I make a pot of oolong tea. Maybe it takes 45 minutes, you know, an hour. 45, let's say 45 minutes. Let's say I'm drinking with 5 people. So there's 6 of us. And let's say that this is a very expensive tea. Let's say this tea is $2 per gram. Okay. Very expensive tea. Yep. It's really nice. And we're getting, you know, 45 minutes out of it. And we're drinking 7 grams in the pot, big pot of tea, you know, for everybody. So what, we're talking about, let's call it $15. So $15, and there's 6 people spending 45 minutes. Well, 6 people couldn't each have 1 beer for $15. You know what I mean? And you don't take 45 minutes to drink a beer. You know? So the time, the amount of value of enjoyment and entertainment that you get from it is very high, you know? And I think what's important is like, that especially back in like 2012, 2013, when I first started, people were so confused about the price of the tea. So confused because they were like, well, I don't understand why it's so expensive because this tea bag costs 10 cents, 6 cents. This tea bag costs 6 cents. And it's like, okay. And like, especially like going and doing wholesale, you know, at big restaurants, you know, they'd be like, well, but the tea that we get now is like 2 cents per serving. Yeah. And they're like, okay, right. So, and I'll ask them like, do you have a beer program at your restaurant? They say, of course we have a beer. These are nice restaurants. I say, okay, do you have Miller Lite on tap? Do you have Budweiser, you know, like Bud Light on tap? Do you have Pabst Blue Ribbon? These are just cheap beers that we drink in America. And they were big, no, we have good beer. It's like, okay, well, why not? Because those beers are much cheaper. How come you don't sell those beers? They're much cheaper. And that helps them to understand. It's like, oh, there's a range, and there's a range. And you know, of course, there are teas that are too expensive. They exist. There are teas that they're good, but are they as good as they are expensive? No. And that's my rule for if I'm going to carry a tea in our shop, my rule is that would me, Sohan, as a tea lover, if I had the money, would I pay this retail price for this tea and feel like I got my money's worth? Yeah. If I wouldn't pay what we charge for the tea, then I won't sell it. Because if I can't sell it for the price that we need to sell it at, and it's not worth it to me, then it's not worth it to carry. And that's, you know, and like you said, it's so important, especially selling tea online. You know, it used to be, we just did things in person. Like, that's why the tea that you got from me is a little handwritten.
Yeah. I show the
yeah, show them. That's
the message. I have I put it in the box because there was no box, but I have no idea, but it must be in 2018, 2017 or 2016. I bought this tea, and you can see this is quite interesting. I got it, and also I was the first foreign country customer, right?
Yeah, first German. Yeah, first non-American customer.
Yeah, and see, I still have the tea, and I forgot it. And before the interview, I just took the tea out, and I saw I still have some tea from him. Yeah, this is a Morphung, and there is a very interesting tea, and I think I drink it tomorrow but I'm very sensitive to caffeine, and that's why I have to drink a show. Because in the evening I cannot sleep otherwise. I'm very sensitive. Normally I'm stopped drinking tea at 2 p.m.
Oh wow! So you're going late tonight. Dankeschön.
But the show, it doesn't matter. So the show don't give me that feel. It gives me another kind of energy. That's also quite interesting.
Yeah, me too. It's very grounding. And I bet that 5-year-old green tea has probably lost much of its caffeine just from being so old.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. But let me I will check it tomorrow. I will make a story of it on Instagram, then you can see how it looks like and how do I feel with that. But I think it's still good because there was also not a green tea. I think there was always a little darker. So there was a Morphung, but a darker Morphung. So that was interesting. That's why I bought it, because I'm not used to green tea. Yeah, normally I'm not drinking green tea that much. There are some I like, but I'm more into oolong because my way of tea starts with oolong. So that was really interesting to dive in the background of a tea seller, because the people have to understand that it's not just you go there and order something. So it's always to make the connection, and every tea we have. Also, I have some tea, but I'm not a tea seller, so I let it to you. I have some tea because people sometimes ask me, hey, can I buy something from you? And I say, okay, I have nothing. So I have some selected tea in my shop, but I'm more for education. So I build up an online course. It's now in German. It's called Teezeremonie Basics. We all know that Kung Fu Cha is not the tea ceremony. It's a practice of tea. It's a method to make tea, but the people like the tea ceremony. So
it's what's really important. It's just like, okay, hibiscus tea, rose tea, it's not tea. Okay, we understand that. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to correct everybody when they say hibiscus tea, chamomile tea. It's not or using the word ceremony. What's important is that people are given access to the culture and the information. Yeah. And that in context, when you're actually teaching them about it, then you make that distinction. You say, well, it's not technically tea if it's not from the tea plant. Well, it's not technically a ceremony. But what's important is that people are given access to the culture. Yeah. And they can develop a more precise and refined understanding of the culture once they've been introduced. But if you're putting up all these barriers and saying, oh, you're stupid for calling this tea, you're stupid for calling this a ceremony, then that's not inclusive. That's not actually bringing people into the culture. That's putting up obstacles.
That brings me up to a question. I often get asked. They always ask me, okay, yeah, you have a lot of stuff on your tea table. So do I need everything? Or when I'm going to work, this is too much for me. I don't want to make a ceremony at work. So what do you tell people when they say, oh, Kung Fu Cha, this is too complicated for me?
I say, you don't need to do this process just to drink tea. You don't need to, there are some, I'll tell them like, okay, shu pu'er, easy, put it in a mug, put some hot water on it. It's not going to get bitter. It just gets dark. Yep. And that's fine. But then like Phoenix oolong or, you know, good oolongs, like Wuyi oolong, if you're not making it in a little vessel with carefully controlling the time and the temperature and the dosage, it's not that you can't drink it. It won't hurt you. And it might be good, but it won't be as good as if you are applying this process to it. So
and
what
also
I tell
the awareness, of course.
Yeah, exactly. The awareness, the attention, and the technique, the presence for it.
Yep.
And so what I'll tell people, but at the same time, you don't want to say, well, if you don't want to do all this stuff, then you can't have tea, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
much people hesitate because we have so much things on our tea table. That's why they hesitate to practice on their own. So
absolutely.
We have to find a way back to simplicity, maybe.
Absolutely. And that's a good stepping stone. Of course, the goal, the long-term goal for us, obviously, we want people to do this because the tea is good. People spend
It's getting
so
better with the process.
Exactly. And people have spent, the farmers, the tea masters have spent so much time and energy making this tea as good as it can possibly be. And so we want to do justice to that tea by paying attention to it and serving it well.
Yeah.
But there's stepping stones, you know. I think that it's important to have like a easy, comfortable, user-friendly way to drink tea. And then people from there, then they can say, oh, now tea is part of my life. I do this every day. And now I know that I like it. Now I'm going to invest not just money, but time and intellectual energy in learning more about it. So like we have like simple vessels, you know, like stepping stone. Here, I'll show you one.
Yeah.
This is literally one of the most popular things that we sell. And what I've noticed is that it's you, like you said, I think too many pieces. People get confused by so many parts. And some people like that. Like I saw that and I was like, hell yeah, give me all the, yeah, exactly. I want all the accessories, you know? Exactly, yeah, exactly. Oh, you mean
and this is even a big one.
One kind of tea? Awesome. Like, give me like 6 different teapots, you know? But a lot of people,
I have
like
50.
50, wow.
50. Yeah, but I'm collecting since 1998.
Wow.
So you can have a guess how much traveling to China, saw a cute teapot, I have to take it. And this, for example, I found in a Wudang mountain and I just take it to sell it. That was in 2005. And then because to sell it, I had to clean it before. And then this teapot was breathing. It was like breathing. So from the pores, the water came out. Little water drops came out. Now it's not possible because it's a poor teapot, because the pores closed. I never saw that and I could not sell it.
Wow. Cool. That's a great, but now you have it. Now you get to enjoy it. Now it's a 16-year-old teapot. That's beautiful. But so for people who want something simple, because they, you know, people come to the tea house, there's like this quandary because people come to the tea house, they drink the tea here. We do gongfu cha, we serve it to them. They like it, they buy it, they go home, they put it in like a little tea ball or a bag, they make it, and it's not as good. And they come back, that tea that I bought from you, it's not as good as when I was at the shop. And I'm like, well, okay. Number one, if you want to make tea better, have a vessel that is not big, not huge. You know, in America, we use like big teapots. You know, this is like a Chinese restaurant.
The Western style as well, here in Germany as well. The people know those big teapots,
And that's fine if you've got like 20 people at a banquet or you're at a restaurant, you're not trying to drink tea. If tea is a beverage to go with your meal or just something to drink, then that's fine. But if you're trying to taste very high quality tea, then you want a small vessel because that allows you to create a concentrated steeping without using all of your tea and you have more control. Just like when you cook food, if you try to cook a dish for 20 people, it won't be as good as if you cook that same dish for 2 people. So maybe you do it in batches, you know what I mean? Instead of trying to make one big pot, you do several small pots and you have more control. And another thing is the ability to separate the tea from the leaves so that you can stop the process. I think that's the other really important thing. And this is why you can drink tea out of a mug, you know, lao ren cha, you know, grandpa style. You can do that, but you don't have control because you can't stop the process, and the tea will sit there, get stronger and stronger. So for me, the two really crucial things are that it's A, it's small, and B, that you have the ability to separate the leaves from the water. And so I tell people, like, do you have a French press? If you have a French press, you know, like an 8-ounce, 10-ounce French press at home, you can use that. Because what I don't want to do, I don't want people to feel like I'm just trying to sell them something.
Yeah,
you know?
true.
I want them to understand my goal is for you to be able to enjoy this tea.
Yeah,
that's my number one. And if you have something already that you can use, go use it. Better that you go use it and enjoy your tea. And then if you want to learn more, you can come back and you can get a specific tea vessel. And then we also carry stuff like this. I like this. It's a travel set, you know, and
I saw that online and I loved it.
This is literally one of our most popular things, and it's just very beautiful, and it's really nice clay. I love ceramics, you know. I love really good quality clay, and most sets are really poor quality. And just like tea, you can't sell bad stuff. This is me as a merchant. I know that you're not necessarily a tea merchant, but as a merchant, here's what I know for sure: you can't sell bad stuff. Because if someone buys, especially online, if someone buys something from you one time and it's not good, not only they won't buy you again, they won't complain, they just won't come back, but they won't drink tea anymore. Maybe the harm that you do is much more than losing business. The harm that you do is someone could have been a tea lover and you gave them a bad experience and now they're going to forget about it. Yeah. Same with teaware. If you sell someone a bad gaiwan or a bad teapot, it's very thin, it breaks when you pour hot water in it. It burns their hands. It dribbles all over the place. It's too thin. It doesn't feel good. They just won't use it. They'll have it and they won't ever use it because it's not a good experience to use it. So for me, I don't sell many travel sets. I sell two kinds of travel set, but they're both very, very good. They feel good to use. They're high quality. They're not the cheapest ones there are, but they're high quality.
Yeah, and you will have it a long time.
Exactly. You have it.
Like this teapot I have since 2005.
Yeah,
see,
exactly.
You will not change it.
Private car, you know.
Yeah.
So like this is a type of clay that I like. This is that mutton fat jade porcelain from Doha. It's a very beautiful clay. And
Doha, yeah. This is beautiful. I was watching this online always, and I had it already in a basket, but then I forgot about it, and I don't know why.
I'm giving y'all a coupon code so you and all of your viewers can get it.
We'll put that later in the description box. Every website, your website, and also your classes. You have online classes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll put it in a description box later, and also share this.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. This is what the side looks like. It's got this. So it's not a gaiwan, it's not a teapot, it's a strainer. Yeah. Right? And this is easy for people, it's familiar to them. Why is this better than a tea ball? One, it's not metal. I don't like those stainless steel. Hard to clean, and I don't like having the metal in the water. Yeah. Number two, it's so big. It's the same size as the inside of the vessel. Yeah. So the leaf can expand. The leaf can unfold. Exactly.
So they're free.
Is when you try to take this tea and you put it in a little tea ball, it won't expand and you won't get the flavor out. Yep. And then it's nice clay. This clay actually makes the tea better. It holds heat well, and it has a positive effect on the chemistry of the tea. And I like this. It's very user friendly. So you put your tea in, you put your water in, you steep it, and then here, this part is my favorite part. When it's done, this sits flat, and this goes in it like that. Yeah. And so it's not dripping everywhere, because even little details like that, every little detail, if it makes a mess, even if it pours good and it feels good, but it makes a mess, psychologically, that person is going to not want to make tea because it's a lot of work. It's too much trouble. Yeah. And so they just won't. They'll go drink a soda instead. You know, they'll go and drink a bottle of tea instead of making tea. Everything that you can do to make the experience more enjoyable. It doesn't have to be easier, but it has to be more enjoyable for people.
True.
The more
And it looks beautiful as well.
beautiful.
This also looks beautiful, and you can build a chahi. Even you can build a chahi with it. So
exactly.
This is also, you don't need too much things. You just have to start. And I always tell the people, for the beginning, maybe you just need a gaiwan or a teapot, and that's it. And then you have your tea tasse cup.
Mug, yeah.
Have your mug at home, and you take the your teapot and you put it into, and the leaves are out, the water is out of the leaves. So
exactly.
that's all you need. Nothing special. And even at your desk at work, you can brew a cup of tea. And this is also quite interesting, because when you have maybe a thermo with hot water, then you have your teapot or a gaiwan and a mug, whatever, and you put your attention away from the desktop to the tea. Even if it's just 30 seconds, it gives you a brain break and makes the brain free your mind to get the ideas back.
Absolutely. And that's that just being present. When you're looking at your phone or looking at the screen, you're not here, you're wherever that information is. And you're not all the way there. You're part here, you're part there, you're divided, you're not focused on anything.
Yeah.
And then bringing it back to the tea is right here, it's right in front of you, it's physical.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it demands your attention if you want to do it well. And that's why with this little set, okay, maybe they don't have all of the stuff. They don't need a chop han. They don't need a gong da bei. They don't need, a tea pad or anything like that. It's very simple. And it's psychologically, it's easy because it has this strain. They've seen this before. It makes sense to them.
Yeah.
And so then they can serve tea and they can have their little cups and it feels good. It feels good on your lips. It doesn't burn your fingers because they're nice, thick, well-insulated cups. And so then they start to enjoy this process. They not just, first, maybe they're like, well, I just need something to make tea. My goal is to drink the tea. But then if they enjoy making the tea, then they start to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And they can really become a lover of Gong Fu Cha. And also this set, you can, when you fold it up, you can put 2 of the little tea coins in it. You know, the little coins that are I think, wait, Andy, will you do me a favor? Will you grab one of the tea coins from that little back left shelf? Yeah. And so when you put the cups in, then you can hear, this should be on the left over there on that little bamboo. There should be a bunch of them.
Also, what I can see is, because it's white, you can see the color of the tea. Yeah,
exactly.
And this is very nice as well. You should, if you start, you should start with white cups and with a set of white porcelain, maybe, because you can do every tea inside.
And exactly, you can do every tea. It doesn't change the flavor of the tea, and it's white. You can see the interior, and it's good for all kinds of tea.
Yeah.
It doesn't heat as well as stoneware, but you want that for green tea or for white tea, lower temperature teas. This last cup, I can put 1, 2 little coins in, right? Mm-hmm. And then when I close it, now I can put the whole thing in away.
I like these boxes because they're really safe. They make the whole thing very safe.
Exactly, and convenient. Now it's not a huge pain. I don't have to pack a million different things. If I want to go serve tea to my friend, I just need this. And then I have 2 pots of tea ready to go. I just need hot water. And so that's to the end. The long answer to your question is, I think that it's totally worthwhile to give people simpler options that are still authentic. I wouldn't tell someone to go buy a bunch of tea bags, Again, if you like tea from tea bags, that's fine, but I wouldn't put my tea in a tea bag, I wouldn't tell someone those little dispenser things that are like drop the tea down the bottom. I think those are neat, but there's plastic in them. There's a plastic gasket.
Yeah, true.
And I don't like that. And so you have to walk the line between making things accessible and convenient without compromising your values. You know, I don't want people to use tea, you know, paper. It'll change the flavor of the tea. I don't want people to use plastic. It'll change the flavor of the tea. How can I help people to make tea more user-friendly, but still be authentic and in integrity with values? Is this truly representing the tea well? This is good quality clay. It transmits the flavor of the tea well. It's good at making tea, and it does everything I need it to do. It's small, and if you learn to make tea in that, those skills will transfer to using a gaiwan. The timing, the dosage, the temperature, all of that stays the same. And so they're taking that first step, and it's not a first step in this direction. It's in the right direction. They're taking the first step along the path to learning more about tea.
Yeah, perfectly said. So it's not a big deal to prepare a good cup of tea. So you can spend a little bit more money on a good tea when you have a good good equipment, and you don't need so much things on your tea table like we have maybe today. You just have to start, and you find the classes over there, or if you are German, then just have the basic course over here. So I have some questions from the audience. So the first thing is, what was the most unusual place you drank your tea? Because you traveled a lot and the people are really interested in that. Unusual place.
Oh man, I have to think really hard. I mean, so there's some really unusually good places, like on the mountain. Obviously, the best place to drink any tea is on the mountain where the tea is grown. So
definitely,
you know, mountain, cut a piece of bamboo, a tube of bamboo, build a fire, take the fresh tea leaves, pu'er tea, stuff them in the bamboo tube, fill the tube with spring water, put the tube in the fire, just set it in the fire, in the cold, boil the water in the bamboo tube, drink that. That was amazing. You know, that's something they do when you're out harvesting tea and you take a break. They don't have any dry tea. They don't have teapots. They don't have water. They use the bamboo from the mountain, the water from the mountain, the wood to make the fire from the mountain, the tea leaves, the fresh tea leaves, not cooked, not dried, fresh tea leaves from the mountain. 100% of everything that you're consuming was from right there, on the mountain, right there. And that's super special, you know, super, super special experience. You know, I've drunk tea on trains in China, sitting on the floor on a train because they have the hot water. You know, you can get the hot water.
But the hot water is horrible, right? The water is horrible. But yes, drink tea in a sleeping train. That was fun.
Even the gaotia, I've drank tea. Oh no, sorry, they don't let you do it in the gaotia. You're not supposed to eat or drink. But in the regular trains, I've drunk tea in the regular trains. In the airport, you know, on the floor in the airport, because in China there's hot water everywhere. You know,
that's true. This is so lovely. They should do it over here as well, especially for babies, right? When you when you have the baby food, then you always need hot water. You can get it everywhere, but if you want it for tea, then it's harder to get hot water.
Yeah, exactly. Other unusual places, many times by, gosh, so many. I mean, on a bus, on a train, on the airport, I mean, obviously on a plane, in the kitchen of a restaurant. You know, when I worked in a restaurant, I would make in the kitchen of the restaurant, like making tea on the dishwashing station, you know, where they put the dishes before they wash them. There's a big flat metal part. Just making tea in there is very unusual. In the woods, you know, in the forests, in the desert, in the snow, in a temple, in like an abandoned temple in Sichuan, because we were freezing, you know, we thought we were going to die maybe, but we made some tea. And you know, one really cool place that I've had tea was on Mengding Mountain, on Mengdingshan.
Mengdingshan.
Yeah, so that's a very historical place for tea, because that is where Wu Li Zhan first cultivated tea, is what they say. You know, there's there's contention around whether he was the first person to cultivate tea or not, but certainly among Han Chinese people, the story is that he was the first to cultivate tea, and he did it on Mengding Mountain, you know, and so there's a lot of history there. And so
I was there, I was in the mountain. Oh, it's so beautiful.
I love Mountain. It's beautiful. And you know, my guy there, my tea farmer there, Yang Qi, he has a temple, and it's a 400-year-old temple, and it's a tea temple. It's a temple to Lu Yu and Wu Lijian. There's two statues, and there's a statue of Lu Yu and Wu Lijian, and they call them Cha Shan and Cha Xian. And the temple is 400 years old, and there's an ancient well, a stone well, and that well is older than the temple. It's before the temple was there. And he says it goes back to like the Song dynasty or something, very, very old stone well. And the mouth of the well, there's a big marble, a big stone that is the lid of the well. And you take the marble out, and there's two dragons carved around the mouth of the well in a circle, going like beautiful. And there's a plaque. And when you draw water from the well, first you give the water to the dragons. The first cup goes to the dragons. Then you can take water from the well to make tea. And his tea temple, upstairs of the tea temple, so you know, in Mengding Mountain, they make the zangcha, the Tibetan tea, and it's in these baskets and in these bricks. And
true.
Jahan. And so he collects that. He has one 200-year-old brick of this tea. And he's got a lot of old tea. And so you go upstairs in his temple, and the walls of the temple, the interior walls, are made of these tea bricks. And the roof, the ceiling is lined with those baskets. All of the ceiling, the whole ceiling is lined with these baskets. Yeah, it's amazing. And so you're in this building that's made of tea, on top of this tea temple that's 400 years old, drinking water from this well that goes back to the Song dynasty, and drinking this we drank a tea from 1964 when we were with him there. And
crazy.
That was a very unique experience.
So that would be the next question, the unusual tea. So now you answer two questions in one.
Well, you know, that guy also, he gets a lot of, he's really into the bug poop tea, you know, and so that definitely qualifies as probably the most unusual tea that I've drank. It's up there. So I'll start with the one that we were just talking about. The tea from 1964 was zangcha, the Tibetan tea. It's not famous like pu'er, but it is aged tea. It is fermented tea. And the
fucha is also Tibetan, right?
They drink it
in bricks with the golden peaks.
Yeah. They do like fucha in Tibet, but I think it's in the north of Tibet. They tend to drink fucha, or they drink zangcha, the Tibetan tea. And in the south of Tibet, they drink pu'er because they're close to Yunnan. But they drink many different kinds actually. And then our friend from Volition Tea Co, she's from Xinjiang, and they drink fucha there as well. The Uyghur people drink fucha as well. But so we were drinking this Tibetan tea, and it was from 1964. And the way that he got it is that it was produced in 1964. Like, not much tea was being produced in China in 1964. No luxury tea was being produced. But they were still producing commodity tea to trade for horses and other livestock with that, with Mongolia, etc. And so this was a big batch of this Tibetan tea that was made in 1964. And the bricks were stacked up, and they were wrapped in yak skin.
Ooh.
And I don't mean leather. It's not like a nice, soft leather case. This is like rawhide, like you give to a dog.
Yeah, okay.
On the outside, there's fur from the yak.
Yeah.
And the veins, you can see you hold it up to the light, you can see the veins through it. It's rawhide, and it was wrapped around this. And it's stiff. You pull it open, and it springs back. You know, it's not leather skin. But it was from 1964. It was skin that was very, very old, 50-year-old, leather skin, and it's been yak skin, and it's been wrapped in this yak skin for 50 years. This is probably back in like 2016. I tried this, and the tea inside it has been wrapped in this yak skin for 50-something years. And it spent 40 years. The first 40 years of his life was in a monastery in Tibet, and then he bought it from them. he bought a lot of this tea from that monastery. And so that was definitely one of the most unique teas that I ever got to enjoy. And then that same guy, Yang Qi, he loves the bug poop tea. And so for those of you watching who are not familiar with bug poop tea, it's not like duck shit. It's not just the name. It actually is bug poop. Duck shit doesn't have anything to do with duck shit.
That's true.
Is bug poop, you know? And so what it is that there's these bugs and they eat tea leaves and then they poop it out.
Is it like the cats in Indonesia with the coffee?
Like the luwak coffee in Indonesia.
Yeah. I was there. I hate coffee, but I had to try the kopi luwak.
How was it?
Tastes like coffee.
Okay, all right. You know, I was there and I wanted to try it, but it was just so expensive. And I only had so much money to spend in Indonesia. And I was like, I could get 1 cup of cat poop coffee, or I could get a whole suckling pig. I'm gonna get the pig. Yeah. So
that's the thing. But my ex-husband was Indonesian, so I had some connections.
Okay.
As usual. See,
I would definitely drink it without a doubt. I would not hesitate. And I actually do like the bug poop tea. It's actually good. It looks so gross because it's got like spider webs. It's got like webs and it's all like stuck together and and there's like pieces of like leaves and stuff. And it just looks so gross. Disgusting. Like you open a drawer in an abandoned house and just like what the mess of like bug poop and spider webs and everything in there. But you boil it and it gets all foamy and you boil it and all of the bug poop sinks to the bottom. And you have the steep tea and you have the boiled tea and then you drink it. And it actually is really good. It's very expensive.
Definitely, because how many poop can the bug? So it's just small one.
Yeah.
Like the cats, huh?
But I've never sold it because I don't think that I can import it into America. I don't think that there's any way that I can legally sell bug poop to people to drink. Not right now. I would have to be like a big mover and shaker to like get the FDA to be like, hey, this is okay to drink. But I've enjoyed it. You know, I've enjoyed the bug
definitely, poop. Definitely. There are a lot of teas. This is disgusting to bring them with. It's the same with the food. So the next question is about the water. So we don't need to have an argument about spring water. I think spring water is the best you can have. But when it comes to water in your tea house, what kind of water you're using and how do you improve your water?
So we use water from a machine that we have here. It's made by a company called Water Logic, and they have their own patented proprietary mineral blend that they remineralize. So it's very simple. It's reverse osmosis water, which gets the water very, very, very pure.
Yeah, this is what I have as well. I have also the osmosis. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That gets that because, you know, tap water in Texas, in Austin, is very bad. So you want to take the water and get it as pure as you could possibly get it first. But we don't want to use pure water to make tea because
it's also not possible. If you ever tried it, pure water, there's nothing coming out of the tea. I think maybe let's explain. There's no grab into the water, so that they cannot take the minerals or the flavor out of the tea. So if the water is too pure, let's say, so it's not possible to get a good tea. I tried it several times. It's not possible.
If you try to take a bath in pure water, you will not get clean. You won't be able to wash the soap off your body because when we encounter water, almost all the time, the water has minerals dissolved into it. It has ions, you know, that ion content is what allows the water to be a good, strong solvent for things that like soap and for tea and things like that. And so if there's no minerals, you can't make good tea. You have to have some minerals, which is why spring water is so good. Spring water has lots of minerals. You don't want the wrong minerals and you don't want too many minerals. So like if you have a lot of calcium in your tea, too much calcium, you can tell because you get that crust inside of your kettle, that white crust, that's too much calcium usually. And if there's too much calcium in the water, then you can't taste the tea, because then
it breaks the kettle. I had a water kettle to Tunisia, and we just bought bottled water there, but it was too much calcium, and after 2 days our water.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, really. And then we had to find another way to drink our tea.
But yeah, so ours is reverse osmosis, which gets you down to 0, and then it gets remineralized. They add back in the right kind of minerals, and they have a proprietary blend of 11 different minerals that they use. That's Water Logic. That's the company that we use here. It's Water Logic. Obviously, spring water is the best.
Definitely. But if you have not the chance to get, do you have a spring or born in Austin or in Texas, somewhere close to you?
There are springs near here. There's in San Marcos, there are springs, and there's in Austin, there's Barton Springs. So we do have springs. The water is not ideal for tea because it is very calciumy. Our water comes from what's called Edwards Aquifer, and that's a limestone aquifer. And so there's a lot of calcium in the water. So it's not really the best water for tea. Unfortunately, we do have springs, but they're not ideal for drinking tea. So
it's also important to have a spring, a mountain spring. It's very important because you have the fields around, then there's a lot of fertilizer, there's a lot of pesticides sinking into the ground. And that's why you cannot use any spring. So if you have a spring, natural spring, everything's fine, but it has to be a mountain.
Absolutely. And exactly. And the best water for any tea is the spring water from the mountain where that tea was grown, because the mineral content is the same. The mineral profile is the same. So the best experience you can possibly have, to me, is to drink the tea on the mountain where the tea was grown, using water from the mountain. And that's the best, the peak tea experience for me that you can have. The closer you can get to the where the tea tree lives, drinking the water the tea tree drinks is going to give you the best.
So that's one last question, is when you can introduce someone into tea, who would it be? Think about famous persons. Who would you like to have on your tea table?
Oh, man.
And why? Why? Maybe it's necessary for them or not, or you just like to have a conversation.
I'm gonna say, man, that's a good one. You know, I would say someone like, I mean, I'm tempted to say something like Joe Biden, the president.
Yeah, I had it in my, I would thought that you say that. Yeah, intuition. There's a connection.
There are plenty of people that I would rather meet. You know, there are plenty of people I would rather have tea with. But if I have the opportunity to expose
everyone
culture, and I think that it will have a positive influence, because I was going to say, okay, well, like Joe Rogan, you know, he has a podcast. He's here in Austin. If I had tea with Joe Rogan and he got into tea, then he could spread tea to millions and millions of people. You know, that's great. But if Joe Biden could get into tea and he was serving tea when he has summits with other world leaders, and he was making that part of his, you know, way that he does diplomacy, I think that could have like a legitimate benefit on world events, you know? Definitely. So, you know, probably someone with power and influence, not because I want to meet them, but because to be able to position tea culture into a place where it can be disseminated more, I think would be really great. And so that's my answer for who do I want to, who would I like to expose to tea culture? And then who would I actually like to sit and drink tea with? I want to say, I don't know. That's a tough one. Angela Davis would be really, really great. So she's an American writer, and a civil rights activist, and she's like a personal hero of mine. And I would love to have tea with her, just because I would love the opportunity to sit down and have tea with her as a person. And great, she can expose a lot of people to tea also. But for that, that's more of a selfish goal. I would just like to be able to have tea with her. Yeah, those are my answers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time for us. That was really interesting, because I know you traveled so long and so much, and you have a lot of experience. And the thing is, what I take from this interview and give it to the people is that you have to look behind the tea as a product, because tea is not only a product. Of course it is. It is a product, but at the end of the day, it's a culture thing. It's a connection. It's much, they have a lot of value. Also, it's a body awareness, because there are a lot of teas you cannot drink, but I can drink, and I can drink teas you would not drink, for example. So this is also diving deep into yourself when it comes to meditation, but also the connection. I love the connection. This is what I stand for when it comes to tea. So this is what I'm taking with me. And of course, your travel experience is great. There's one last thing. So because I'm focusing to spread the culture to everyone, and I'm focusing on the target group newbies. My target group are newbies. So when someone is new, what are your 3 tips how to start with a tea?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. Because I also, the business is really, we've tried to design.
Business is one thing, but.
Well, and it's both, because my goal is to have something for the newbie and have something also for the person who's been doing it for 30 years, and have both. So I would say that number 1 is so tips for them, for getting into it. So I would say
how to start.
Number 1, don't worry whether you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong.
Very good.
Just enjoy yourself. Tip number 1 is that just enjoy yourself and don't worry too much about the form.
Perfect.
You can always do that later. Tip number 2, use good water. Don't use bad water. Don't use tap water.
Yeah. Even if you're in Germany and the German water is very controlled, you can drink it from the tap, but it's not good for tea.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then tip number 3, be present for what you're doing. I'm tempted to say use a small vessel that you can separate the water from the leaves, but that's not actually the most important. Even if you're just drinking tea from a mug, Laura and Cha, grandpa style, smell it.
Or bowl brewing, like a Global Tea Hut promoted.
Exactly. Boiling tea, whatever. Microwaving the water and pouring it on whatever you've got. Not everyone has a means at their disposal. But whatever the tea is, whatever the vessel is, use good water and don't worry too much about what you're doing. And then the last tip is be present for what you're doing. Don't be on your phone. Don't be watching TV. Don't be thinking about other stuff. If you're drinking tea, even if it's crappy tea, even if you're making it in a paper cup, look at the leaves, smell the leaves again. When you're tasting the tea, really taste the tea, slurp it, sniff it, be present for it, feel how you feel in your body. I would say pay attention. That's my last tip so my tips are, don't worry too much about the form.
Yeah.
Use good water, pay attention.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So thank you so much for being here. And at least we have a cup of tea together. But I'm looking forward to meeting you in person one day, and I'm sure it will be possible sooner or later.
Absolutely.
To travel again, and then we have a cup of tea together.
Yeah, please. You can bring your kids, you bring the whole family over here, and we'd love to have you in Texas. It might be a little while before my baby is traveling across to Europe, but definitely. I actually, where in Germany are you?
Berlin.
Okay, I've been to Berlin once, twice, a long time ago. So
it's a lovely city, yeah.
One of our team members here, Elizabeth, she really wants to start a tea house in Berlin. That's her dream, is to go have a tea house in Berlin. So yeah.
So there are some closed now. So it's a good opportunity to start it now.
All right. Yeah, there's a market gap. But yeah, we'd love to visit. You are so welcome here as our guest anytime that you can make it over. And then I will make a coupon code for Perfect. You and your viewers, and it will be YEMIN. I'll just make it your name, YEMIN, and that'll be the coupon code. And then yeah, as classes, I don't know when this will air, but every month I teach 3 classes. I will add my 4th class back in, but for now I'm only teaching the 3, which is the intro class is on the 1st Sunday of the month. Advanced class is on the 2nd Sunday of the month. And then internal classes on the 3rd Sunday of the month. And then on Saturdays, we also do a Mandarin Chinese for tea lovers class. And those are all available on Zoom. And so anyone, anywhere can participate.
Yeah, awesome. And because it's just for everyone who's watching, so please check out the classes, because even I learned a lot from his videos, and it's always worth it to see different teachers acting, because from every teacher you can grab the things you need and you want, and there's always something you can improve. This is a journey, never ends, never.